Welcome back to the Gentleman's Gazette. In today's video, I discuss 8 things that being broke taught me. We had a video about 10 things that I wish I had known in my 20s, and this video is somewhat of an extension to that. Currently, I'm in my mid-30s, and 15 years ago, my life looked very different. I grew up in Germany with parents that were in the middle class, but neither my mom nor my dad ever got any money from their parents, and building a house, that was always a financial struggle. Yes, I did get a bit of pocket money, but it was much more than a bit of change. So I learned from an early age, if I wanted something, I had to work for it. My first job was as a paperboy at the age of 14. Then I got into selling fountain pens on eBay, which made me quite a bit of money. And that ultimately started my interest in classic men's clothing. After high school and doing my civil service, I ended up going to a private law school in Germany. This was the first time I was exposed to other kids who just had a lot of money that they got from their parents. One of my fellow students actually just flew home to his mom, bringing his laundry so she could do it for him there. That was a world that was entirely new to me. The German school and university system is quite good in the sense that they try to allow you to go there even though you come from relatively low or no means at all. I had 450 euros at my disposal, which at the time was about 500 bucks. So I had to pay rent from that, which was about $300. That was quite cheap. And I ended up staying at a really rundown place that was originally designed for officers' widows, and when there weren't enough of them, they just put it students. I first started out in a very small shared room on a 3rd floor of a building, but it didn't have a bathroom in the unit. So every morning I had to go downstairs into the basement where there was a coin-operated shower. And for 50 cents, you got 7 minutes of warm water, but you could stop it in between. And I was able to actually shower with 20 seconds of hot water, but hey, I saved 50 cents that way. At the time, my main form of transportation was a bike, and even as a student, I worked at the university making some money on the side. I remember coming to the US, I didn't have much more than my 2 suitcases and a few dollars to make a new start here, and today I'm a lot more comfortable. However, being broke taught me a number of valuable life lessons, and I want to share them with you today. Number 1, money itself doesn't just automatically make you happier. I know people usually only say that once they've achieved a certain level of wealth. What I can say though is that money has the ability to make your life a lot easier. Things are less stressful, you don't have to worry about any upcoming emergencies, you don't do the math when you go grocery shopping, and it's just easier to focus on the things that really matter in life. I definitely feel a lot freer now that I don't have to worry about when I do have to pay rent, or what if there's an emergency coming up. I can simply pay for it out of pocket. Instead, I can now pursue hobbies. I can take dance classes with my wife that I really enjoy. I can take piano classes, or just anything else that gives me purpose or where I have a sense of self-improvement. Overall, I've always been a very happy person, even when I was broke. And if you remember Notorious B.I.G., who said, "More money, more problems." And he definitely had a point. Social studies have shown time and time again that earning anything over $75,000 doesn't make you a happier person. Sometimes it can even make you less happy because your life is all of a sudden a lot more complex. You have to deal with tax issues, and other people may just want to hang out with you because you're rich, not because they're actually interested in you as a person. While I've found that just being rich or money itself doesn't make you happier, there are a few ways where you can utilize money to buy happiness. The big thing is you have to invest in experiences with others that you like rather than stuff. Once you have more money at your disposal, you automatically adjust your lifestyle. You accrue more stuff, but it just becomes a new normal and it doesn't make you happier. Instead, if you spend time with your friends, with your family, maybe take them on a trip and you can share experiences afterwards and you have something to look forward to, that definitely makes you happier. Also, spending money on others, donating, usually makes you happier, and spending money on things that really give you purpose will maybe costs more upfront, but in the long term will make you more happy. For example, I love the Gentleman's Gazette. I love to help men to become gentlemen and to improve themselves, and that is my purpose in life, and so I enjoy that no matter if I make money or not. Also, instead of just buying something right now, it makes sense to pre-buy things. Let's say a cruise with your family or an event, something that you want to do and that you look forward to, where you can relax and spend time with them because you have all the anticipation building up to the actual trip itself. Last but not least, something that I do a lot more now than I used to do when I was broke is to simply pay people to do things I don't like to do so I can spend my time with my family or just on things that I truly enjoy. The second thing that I learned when I was broke was that the self-reliance I had made me a lot stronger as a person. My parents always raised me to be very independent, not just in terms of money. Other people I knew would get a lot more pocket money, but they didn't necessarily understand or were able to manage money better than I was. Overall, it's a lot harder to adjust to less money than to more money. I pretty much always knew if I wanted something, I simply had to work for it and do it myself. And I never really thought about it until I met some buddies during my civil service, and one guy told me, whenever I wanted something, I just put it on my Christmas list and it would just appear. You, on the other hand, have just learned how to just come up with ways to get what you want, be creative, have a side hustle or work in a certain way, and I envy you. And I never thought about it that way because for me it was always normal. Just when I met other people who just had gotten a lot of money from their parents, I realized that it was actually a benefit that I didn't just get everything handed to me as a kid. 3, being broke or being rich is really a matter of perception. My dad's from Brazil and we lived in Germany. So whenever we would go to Brazil and visit relatives, they all thought we were filthy rich. So they all expected us to bring a lot of gifts and to pick up the tab and pay for the bill, when in reality, my parents were in debt and had to worry about how to pay for the mortgage and how to make ends meet. But we lived in a different country, and even though we had absolutely more money, relatively, we were not richer or poorer than the people in Brazil. The fourth thing I learned was that having extra money doesn't just happen. You have to actually plan for it. My roommate in college would always buy certain dried foods at the beginning of the month in case she would run out at the end that she could at least eat. Even though at the time I thought it was a little extreme, she was totally right. If you don't manage your money up front, you'll just spend it. At least that's what I do and most people I know. If you never plan to set aside money for an emergency up front, chances are it'll hit you very hard and it'll have very drastic consequences. Well, that means you have to be very deliberate about your money, you have to set yourself a budget and then chop the money off right when you get paid in the beginning, otherwise it's just not gonna happen. The fifth thing I learned was that you can buy pretty much anything secondhand or vintage or at a deal. And honestly, until I was in my 20s, pretty much everything I bought was either on sale at a store, it was a hand-me-down from someone, or it was a vintage item. Even though I got certain outfit elements that were quite a bit bolder and not the foundational wardrobe pieces, including the shirt I'm wearing here right now, I still have a lot of the items from that period that I still wear today because they have a certain timeless character to it that allows me to wear them now, but also 10 years from now. At the time, I always focused on great value, finding handmade garments that no one else knew because I didn't have a certain brand name, but they fit me somewhat and just made me feel good. Even though I was relatively poor, I always felt I could buy stuff on eBay, and since it was so inexpensive, I could justify it. But if I take a step back now, I can see that I spent a lot of money on a lot of stuff, none of which was a foundational wardrobe piece. And because of that, I had to end up giving a lot of it away and selling it. And basically, it was almost like an addiction where I spent the little money I had on eBay trying to convince myself that I got all those good deals, when in reality, it was just spending the money that I probably could have saved up and gotten something that I really, really wanted instead. The sixth thing I learned was that being poor takes a lot of time. if you just always have to think about how you pay for your groceries and for your rent and for any kind of other expense, your mental capacity is just focused on that, and your brain is just spinning and trying to understand where you can find something else. Also, if you think about it, if you don't hire anyone, you do your own laundry, your own cleaning, your own grocery shopping, your own cooking, and all those things, yes, you do it yourself, but that doesn't allow you to spend time with your friends or with your family. Also, constantly looking for discounts and deals, including for gas, and figuring out where you can save 5 cents more, but then it means you actually waste 20 minutes of your lifetime plus the gas to get there. It's just all that stuff that takes a lot of time that ultimately is not really worth it to me, looking at it from viewpoint today. Obviously, it pays to stay in a budget, but understanding that your time is valuable and that you can use your time to work and make money rather than just looking for discounts is a very powerful concept that took me a while to understand and grasp. The second thing I learned was that being poor can actually make you quite adaptive and creative when it comes to problem solving. When my car breaks now, it's easy. I just go to the dealership and have them fix it. If that isn't an option, maybe you have to barter with someone so you can help them out and they help you out. Or you go to YouTube and figure out how to fix it yourself. Trying to overcome an obstacle when you don't have the money to fix it is a really valuable lesson that even helps me a lot now that I'm a lot more comfortable financially. Last but not least, the 8th thing I learned when I was broke was that you can still treat yourself if you do so responsibly. What do I mean by that? Well, I remember back in 2008, I was still going back and forth from Germany to meet Teresa, and she had found this new place that was bigger, it was nicer, but it also cost at least $400 more a month. I felt it was a financial stretch, and I was able to convince her that we would just stay in the place where she was before, keeping our expenses low and just spending time with each other instead. Now, 6 months later, she lost her job, and we were both extremely happy that she didn't take on this additional financial burden of a lease that would maybe have led to a bankruptcy, who knows. We ended up staying in that small apartment until 2012, and at that point, we were financially secure enough that we could afford to move out into a larger space, but we really had much more financial depth to even deal with emergencies, which in the other case, we would have never had. So how do you treat yourself when you're broke? Well, you buy little things and things that don't have a high cost or a long-term monthly recurring cost. You can go out maybe with someone at a restaurant that's not super fancy, but it's small and the gesture counts and you can still very much enjoy it. Or maybe you buy yourself a jacket that you've always wanted and that you need because it's so cold outside. But honestly, always ask yourself, is it something I really need or is it something I just want? And if you need something every once in a while to keep going, it's okay. Just stay away from these long-term contracts. Don't put it on your credit card and accrue at super high interest, because in a long time it'll cost you a lot more. In today's outfit, I wear quite a few vintage pieces. I wear a vintage tweed coat. It's part of a suit that I bought for about 50 bucks. My tie comes from an estate sale. It cost me about $1. The shirt is vintage from my times as a student. Even though it's from Siniskalki, I got it just for a few bucks. The new thing is my pocket square, which is navy blue. It picks up the tone of the tie and is a little bit more muted than the strong striped shirt. It's from Fort Belvedere and it's in silk wool, and you can find it in our shop here. My chinos are from Ralph Lauren. They're quite old. They're a wardrobe staple. The socks I have are blue and gray blue striped. They're visually interesting, but pick up the color of the pants and provide a good transition to my brown Quarterbrook Oxford shoes. Last but not least, I'm wearing some Fort Belvedere cufflinks in malachite and silver, which you can find in the shop, but I could also picked one of my older cufflinks that I bought for $5 at a flea market.